Okay, we're recording. Hey everyone, this is Mary Costello from the Womb Room. Um, this beautiful space where we open the soil, the warmth, the embrace of Mother to offer our gorgeous guests the space to unfold or unpack their wisdom, their pearl, their word, whatever it is, with the full trust that as they open and offer who they are, that is returned to the unified consciousness, and it just spreads through for all of us to absorb and enjoy and be elevated from or deepened from or whatever it brings. So my guest today is my lovely friend Sarah Poet. I'm really happy Sarah is with me because actually my first podcast was Sarah's. She was the first one who said, "Oh, let me get that crazy woman on for a chat." And we had the best chat. And it was like, I think was it New Year's Eve, and
Yeah.
something cracked open. And when I noticed Sarah, she was speaking about the Holy Daughter and the Blue Rose, and her name is Sarah, and she was speaking of Sarah, the Holy Daughter. And I had been working to restore the channel of Mother, which is grandmother, mother, daughter, eternal mother, the whole lot, the song lines of the feminine. And so we instantly connected because of I'd never heard anyone else saying Holy Daughter. I know
Mm.
people have since told me they've spoken about Blue Rose, but I hadn't heard it before Sarah. Um, so Sarah, as I know her, she does so many things, but as I know her, she is working with, feminine and masculine creational principles to bring like balance and creational dynamics and just the right way to get things happening. And she helps people, individuals, couples, organizations, coaching and consulting. Um, as I know her, the bit that is so much fun for me is this Sarah's ability to study patterns and create the tools, like the applicable hands-on way of bringing this, like these formless, well, they're patterns in form, but they come from a maybe a subconscious intention, but Sarah's able to somehow gather it all up and find the tools into her hands that can bring about the correction.
Mm.
Um, what Sarah talks about mostly at the moment, which is amazing, is birthing upward, and she will tell us more about that. But this is all about how do we rise in truth? How do we rise in truth, create in truth, expand in truth, be in truth, and yeah, just take over the world in that way. So, Sarah, hello.
Mm. Hello. Thank you, Mary. It's good to be here with you and see you smiling. And thank you for that intro. And I love how you established the energetics of like, this is going to, go outward and
Mm,
um, percolate through the field. So
yeah,
celebrating that, percolating through the
it's
soil.
yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
We're like creating a rose garden, or a
Yeah.
star map, and finding each other,
Mm.
and we all have carried something so well in whatever way we've had to carry it, and then to come into a space. And I've been preparing the soil. This is what I've been doing, is preparing the water, the soil, the fabric, so that because I have full faith in everybody's truth, just to allow that truth to open and receive everything it needs to flower, um, and teach, because everyone's truth teaches. So, Sarah, what is on your heart and mind? Like, what is your feeling that you would like to speak on?
Mm.
Or I can poke things around, but if there's
I love when
anything.
you poke things around, but I'm gonna just say one thing first. Like the way
Mm,
you said that I, study patterns and sort of extrapolate them and then you give us
mm,
tools, that's true. And this year in particular has felt like a lot of mush, a lot of um like I was in the process, like in the chrysalis of like going through what I was going through. And it's just now even today, like it's amazing. And this is kind of how we ended up on this call today. I was kind of like ready for more, and you're like, let's do it. And so I'm getting this like pattern that I can then teach. So I was a career teacher and educator in a previous career, and then um, that 4-6 projector human design profile is like there's a teacher in me. And so I had felt a little shaky, a lot shaky this year, where I was like, but where's the teaching? Like, where's the pattern that I can? And I didn't know if I was even going to get it again. I was like, maybe I'm just in the soil now from here on out. Maybe that's done, that part of me. But I'm feeling really good today because I can feel the new energetics coming into this pattern that I can kind of extrapolate. And yeah, I'm calling that birthing upward. And that term came to me a couple of years ago when I was channeling for two men who were starting a business, and they were saying they were younger men, they were conscious, and they were like, how can we incorporate the feminine into what we're doing? And what came through was an entirely different structure for building than we have known. So it wasn't like, okay, there's this old structure of business, and we're just going to include some feminine considerations into this old structure of business. What we were shown was that there was a new way to build, and that would be from the ground up, like a birthing upward in this creational dynamic. So I wrote a blog about it like 2 years ago. And then, yeah, it's been percolating this year as I was like with the blue rose and with the spiral and the blue rose, and um, really healing more and more dynamics around feminine and masculine, more than I like knew was available before. So
Hmm.
we're truly in like new territory, which is
Yeah.
beautiful. Yeah.
I love that. Like when you say that, I see when you talk about the new structure and they want, you wanted to have the feminine emerge or rise,
Yeah.
not just a complementary, piece to the structure. Um, I love that because, I always say that, I am made from my mother's strength. She is in my
Yeah.
bones, and I cannot. We can pretend, but we all know the strongest person we know is our mother, right? Well, I think the
Mm,
vast majority of people strong in her perseverance, but also her suppleness and her ability to respond, or their mother, let's say, the ability not to break. There was never an option for mothers to break.
mm,
So you are building. This is what I feel like. It's like you're allowing or urging or however pushing up the authentic feminine to rise, the feminine that is of structural strength. Or would you say like structural order, or like what did you find is the part of, or can you differentiate between the masculine and feminine at that level? What is
mm,
the piece that the feminine brings to the structure?
mm. Yeah, great. So when you were talking about the mothers and you said our mothers, I was kind of, a split for a moment because I was thinking about like the human mother, right?
Mm,
And none of us as human mothers get it all right. And then
no.
there's like the eternal mother, the great mother that we
Mm,
can remember and come to have a relationship with, right?
yeah.
And and then at the same time, I felt so much love as you were saying that about women and how we are so strong. Like, you know, I know that in my life, I have not gone down because of my son. Because
Yeah.
there were times that I would have gone down, and I like there was not another reason that I didn't go down other than
Mm,
I'm a mother, right? So life
yeah.
was hard and I kept going because I'm a mother. So we're like, yeah, we have that strength, that resilience. Like I feel the gold frequency in that. It's like that is a strength of mother. And
Yeah.
a lot of the strength and resilience that we historically have developed as women has been a hardening or
Mhm.
a protection or a fight or adopting, like changing ourselves so that we fit into existing structures, like
Yeah.
even if it didn't feel good. So, you know, ignore that your body has a cycle and wake up every single day at 7 a.m., drink coffee, go to work all day, perform, come home, be exhausted.
Mhm.
That is not an organic structure for women's energy. That
Yeah.
is a false structure of the workplace, right?
Hmm.
So these structures that exist, and when I say structure, it could be like a structure for how we use our time, or a structure for how we work, or a structure for how we're in relationship. Like these, it could be a building, it could be a church, it could be a religious, like
Mm.
structural component. So there were all of these existing structures as we were like born as female, coming into the world, learning about the world, right? There's all these structures that were not built with our organic nature at heart. And
Mm.
then we had to like fit into them and adjust and adapt.
Mhm.
And then we have like burnout and we have, misfiring and we have extreme disrespect of feminine energy and we have like
Mhm.
perpetual, just extractive kinds of kinds of
Mhm.
energetics. And so like the form of woman, the and the energetic of woman that you and I equate to like a rose.
Mm.
There's so many metaphors that we can use to like get the energetic point across. And so this spiral nature of the rose, the softness, um yeah, and we can get back to that spiral nature, but that is a wholly different cultivation of structure
Yeah.
that, like I am remembering, you are remembering, we are remembering that that rose is actually a structure for our lives. Like
Mm.
that spiral, that crystal spiral of creation is a structure. And I used to say like structure and flow, and I have this system called structure and flow. And it used like 4 years ago, I was like, masculine is structure, feminine is flow. That's not true because, and I've done some podcasts on this in 2024 on the Sacred Remembering podcast, but like the structure can be a spiral, the structure can be feminine. So when we're applying that to, creations, businesses, um, yeah, like relationships, exchanges, anything, there's a new template that can emerge when we go kind of like to the earth level, to the base level, to the center of that spiral, and then let it unfurl in its organic structure. And we will find wholly different things
Yeah.
than we have experienced.
I really love that. It just totally turns it on the head. Like you said, that the masculine is structure and the feminine is, flow, like water, like a beautiful creational wave, which we are. But the fact that it would be assumed, or maybe it was a reality, that our flow, our water as women had no inherent structure, really that's to say we had no inherent intelligence or order within our water, within our creational flow. So that has been illuminated as false, which is incredible. Because then, so if we're looking at the feminine as flow and water, you know, or that's the creational force. That's our birthing waters. That's the way we create things. That's how things move through us. So there's already inherent intention or blueprints within the water, within the flow, that contain within themselves the beginning of their own structure. So when you speak about that, then the structures that we are building from that remembered intelligence of flow of the feminine of the flow is I feel breathing, I feel space opening, I feel breathing, I feel allowance, I feel common sense, I feel effortlessness. And the thing about the spiral nature of the rose, and it's hard to put, it's hard for me sometimes to put these things in concise words, but the spiraling nature of the rose, it feels to me like the opening, the way sound opens space.
Yeah.
Sound is of the feminine. Sound is the first principle of creation is sound. In the beginning was the word, and it is mother's word, and it opens space. And so space, holding space, opening space is basically structure, you know? So
Mm.
it is the sound now that I feel open space.
Mm.
And I just feel, and comes up to me, and it's become completely unacceptable now to funnel my creational feminine water power into a false structure, into a pipe dream, into a funnel of some, to give life to somebody's vision. Um,
Yeah.
I can't do it because if it's their
Yeah.
vision, if it's true, then it would be my vision too. And it would be your vision. It would be everyone's vision if it were true. Because
Right.
we have a unified eye, we have a unified everything. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so I might have gone a little bit around with that, but
Well,
just coming back to
like I'll
sound is structure,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
So what this is bringing up is like I gotta I want to name some things maybe for the
Hmm.
women listening because I feel like we need a
Absolutely.
pep talk right now.
That
Like
would help a lot.
collectively,
Hmm.
collectively, I feel like we need a little pep talk. Like what is going on? Because we were told to, we were told in traditional and then in like these pseudo spiritual spaces, like the internet coaching spaces, we were told that men hold the structure and that women should kind of fit into it and like men have the final word.
Oh,
um and
sorry.
no, and these are false. And what else, like, men are responsible for provision, so the women should just give their energy to that. Yeah, so all these things that put men at the center. One of these really silly metaphors that I started calling out a couple of years ago is like this hoopla about men being the riverbanks, the masculine being the riverbanks, and the feminine being the river. And so if you think about that, it's like my only job is to flow through the riverbanks that a man has created. Like my own, like he's supposed to hold the form and she's supposed to just flow through the form that he holds. That's false.
Yeah.
So false. So what's happening right now is like we have the breakdown of the false structures. And I can get back to
Hmm.
this in a moment, Mary, if you want me to talk about the blue rose and the hurricane in Nashville.
Yeah.
But the false structures are falling. And what women are doing in our work and our sovereignty work, and I've been on this road, you've been on this road, like we tried out those teachings of like masculine, feminine polarity. And we've tried out what there is in the collective, and most of it is actually false. And so there was this deepening for me into quite a messy and difficult path of like debunking, well, not just debunking what was out there, but like um, sorting through the energetics of like disassembling all of this false patriarchal masculine and false patriarchal feminine stuff. And then, like, what are the true energetics of these two in creation? And So I didn't find those answers, like the answers that I found. I'm sure there will be thousands more in my lifetime, but I didn't find them through partnership with a
Hmm.
man. And I'm actually super grateful for that. Because I think if I had been in a partnership with a man over these years, I would have still been doing the default thing.
Hmm.
And so we also have this rhetoric in these online spaces about what it means to be like a good woman. And so if we are too strong, then we can also get like a, well, you're a feminist, you're anti-man. I think we're in a different territory. We're not doing that either. So we're not like totally giving over. We're not in the feminist like we don't need a man. I need a man. I
Me
want
too.
my body needs a man. We need
Hmm.
men. Like
Yes.
we are not in a
What, just
separation
one?
way. Yeah, right. We are
Yeah.
not in a separation way with men. Like we
Yeah.
don't want that. We don't want to create that. And
Hmm.
sometimes like we have anger or something that's not worked out yet and we have to bitch a little bit in order to like
Yeah.
work it through, but
Hmm.
ultimately this path is a unity one and we know it and we want that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't see the men understanding or comprehending or getting to like this level of consciousness that we're having these conversations
Hmm.
that you and I have. The
Yeah.
conversations that are happening in the womb room right now are not
Hmm.
happening among men to a large extent.
Yeah.
So women are going first in this
Hmm.
way. And I think we needed to. We needed to get the sovereignty back in the water, in the soil, in the womb. We needed to find the sovereignty and the softness and then reignite the new and healthy and unified energetics.
Yeah.
Like that's what we've been doing. So this thing about following the male leader as a good little feminine is
Hmm.
actually not, I can't see that being what happens in this next stage because like men try to talk to me about the consciousness that they have organized to understand the
Hmm.
world and it is not where I am. And
Yeah.
God, I welcome a man who can teach me, like
Mm. Yeah.
in a good way. I welcome that. Like I said, like I want that. Or I
Yeah.
welcome a man that can like mirror and give the masculine perspective. But like there's no way that I could fold my feminine to a masculine consciousness that is still regurgitating false structural
Yes.
shit.
Yeah.
And this is what I think is like a lot of women are like pulling away from men altogether and
Hmm.
like being celibate and are on this path. A lot
Yeah.
of men are like,
What's
but
happening?
listen to our false structural consciousness. And we're like,
Like, where
no.
did they go? Where
Yeah.
did everyone go?
I don't know. I actually don't. I haven't been paying a whole lot of attention to what the men are doing, less so in the last 2 years than ever. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, I just felt like to name that. Like, women are going first right now,
Hmm. Yeah.
and there's no reason to think that that's not feminine.
Yeah.
Like that is fully appropriate at this time. This is what we are doing. And we're
Yeah.
blowing open new energetics
Hmm.
for everyone. Like
Yes.
these energetics are for everyone. And so the false structures are crumbling and that can be painful or that can be like a swim in mama ocean, like
Hmm.
it can be a lot of different things.
Yeah, it depends, right? So if you benefit, if you have a mini empire in, in your community or in your relationship, or maybe you're the king of the hill, it might hurt. But if those
Yeah.
empires are built on your back, which, they are built on the backs of the silence and the subjugation of women, it's party time, let it fall. As we rise, they fall, and they are to fall. I just want to speak on a few different things you said. when the idea that men were the resource, and this is really interesting, this is hardwired into,
Mhm.
ancestrally, and I heard of this and I've seen it, I've been it. Um, when you feel rejected by a man and a fear comes up, it's not actually, for that man, it's a fear of being cut out of resource, a fear of starvation. This is just in the body, right? This is
Yeah.
we're not thinking this, right? But there's this, it brings up something in the body where you think, well, I'm going to be starved because that's
Yeah.
what would have happened, right? But
Yeah.
what we are remembering is that the map is not the territory. So, yes, men drew the maps, men put in the fences, men raised the flags, but they have never been the territory. Woman is the territory. Woman is the land, the soil, and the water. Woman is the resource. Mother is the resource. So they had a good grapple with, being in charge of it by using force. And when I say force,
Right.
that's top down. So you're talking about a few people who really benefited from the subjugation of men and women, and men were slaves in that system too, obviously. Um, and then complete wipeout of the people who really felt the mother in their body, who would never go against the mother, a wipeout of those races.
Yeah.
Um, so just to say that, and when you speak of the consciousness of the masculine, um, and this was a lie that I unpicked, as we all do. I just saw this, and it's a big one in those polarity teachings that the feminine, the woman actually is to devote herself, her energy to the upholding of the masculine dream or vision. Um, Now I understand, if he's a successful man and you want to help him, whatever, in practical terms, okay. But we are evolutionary, creative, birthing women. Like that's the truth of it. So if we have access to the spiral of creation, which we do in our womb, which opens space, which is we have access to the sound, which opens new space or reclaims unseen space into the creational continuum. We have access to an infinite consciousness because of our birth canals, because we have the ability to birth formless into form that's never been taken away from us. We have always had an infinite consciousness, an infinite channel. The masculine channel, and it's not just me saying this, I had a conversation with a man and he affirmed this, has been finite. The masculine
Mm.
consciousness has been finite. And if you're asking when we say what are the men doing right now, a lot of them are swapping stories. They have a piece of the puzzle. They will
Mm.
have the full puzzle. The infinite masculine, the Father Earth, will be back on this earth if he's not
Hmm.
already. It's happening.
Hmm.
But
Like now,
they
yeah.
right now, yeah, they've
Yeah.
pieces of the story. Come on, they've pieces of the story, pieces of the puzzle. So there is a fracture in the masculine consciousness, and the masculine's ability to comprehend. Um, the mystery, the mother, the song, the
Yeah.
whole, the bigger picture. Because the masculine,
Yeah.
by being brought to a finite consciousness, which was done, this was a weaponized, this was done to take out the masculine principle, so that their energy could be, our light bodies could be misused. Um, this created this fracture, created these finite thought processes, and to some degree, brought the masculine principle to be a parasitic presence.
Yeah. Right.
So the only way it could find its sustenance and its infinite nature was to feed from the mother in a parasitic type of a way. So, as this parasitic feeding has been taking place, there has been a complete lack of upholding and honor.
Yeah.
That's kind of the definition of parasitic, right? It's like taking without replenishing, taking without upholding.
Yeah.
Whereas we know, and this is why we maybe so many of us are keeping ourselves outside of relationship. We know what the true masculine looks like. I know you have a affinity with the Christos. Like I very simply say Jesus. I have no problem saying Jesus Christ. You say Christos. We have had an affinity with the heart of man, the heart of Father, and we have been working to call that back onto the planet to so the shadow masculine's reign can go away, you know.
Mm.
So as the mother is rising, the father is rising because, like you say, we took care of the waters of the womb, and that allows every principle to emerge. And at this stage, if there are women, hostile about these conversations and very defensive of men, they are probably parasiting from the masculine. They're, into to some degree, they're benefiting from the masculine having a finite position. And that's not, I'm not insulting
Yeah,
anyone. I
right.
understand women want to survive, but if women are and it's usually women, men never disagree with, never approach me and say what you said is a lie. It would be women who would say, "Oh, you can't say this a poor man and all this." And I don't at
Mhm.
this stage I don't think men want a pat on the head or a concession. I think they would like their infinite channel back, right? And their pure primordial power, you
Yeah,
know? So and
yeah,
we're doing that, so
yeah,
that's my
yeah.
answer to anyone who thinks we're against men or anything crazy like that.
No, we love men. I'm really holding out hope. Mary holds out more hope than I do when we're in our conversations. I'm
I'm
like,
a
I don't know. I'm
romantic.
not thinking about them. I'm over here in my world. But anyway,
Any
I
day
want
now.
right. I love it. Thank you for keeping the hope alive.
You're
Because
welcome.
and it's coming back for me, but this is what I wanted to go back to, this thing about like the masculine as resource. And
Mm,
this is one of the biggest wounds I carried. And I carried
mm,
this from my father and like deep abuse that was tied to the masculine, that was tied to material manipulation.
yeah.
And I am not ashamed to say that it took a long time to get that out of me. And sometimes it still shows up, right? Um, so like resource fears, that's what I started to like focus on the most in my life and my work, like women's resources and how we repattern the crux of what you've named, that for us to say and believe that masculine is provision is so false and stunting of the feminine and of the womb, because like the womb is the greatest provider that there is. So it is the false structure of the patriarchal system. I'm saying what you said differently,
Yeah.
but it was that system that gave resources to men, put them above women and the womb hierarchically, not creationally,
Yeah.
and said, you have dominion over this.
Mm-hmm.
So that distortion is massive, that we must like move out of our systems. The thing about that is, you know, the monetary system, the ways of exchange are very large and old. And so like I was like, I'm not going to play any of that game anymore. But actually regenerating, income in a wholly new way is something that I'm very much still, working on, to
Yeah.
like really free of that trap and then be in the provisional way. But all of the ways, I don't know if this is fully accurate, but most all of the ways that we have been able to really earn monetary resources, that was built in an old structure. So it's like, how much do we have to compromise to still like work in the old ways to have access to the monetary resources?
Mm-hmm.
If I could just like get fully out of the old structures and not have to worry about money, that would be
Yeah.
easier, right? Than
Mm-hmm.
like being a woman and being a creational being and then rewriting how we do work and how we do prosperity in
Mm.
this new and regenerative way that does not compromise the holy nature of the creative feminine and the
Yeah.
womb and the spiral. And that's
Mm.
where I'm like, personally, I'm like, okay, I'm getting there. I'm
Yeah.
walking step by step. But it was also in that time, like you and I have talked about the time between the no more
Mm-hmm.
and the figuring out of the new. And that can feel like a wasteland sometimes because it's
Yes.
like, well, what the fuck is the answer? But
Mm-hmm.
there's this definitive no more that so many women have spoken for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember like a few months ago, I was like, hey, women on Facebook, talk to me about celibacy. Like, how many of you are, doing this? It was one of the most popular posts that I had on Facebook like all year because all of these women were like, I'm not giving myself to that false thing anymore. I'm just not.
Yeah.
And so like in this waiting period. So between the no more and the new, I was still experiencing a lot of what I would call finite consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
like searching for the new ways, but catching myself in finite, almost like a fear of I I will not have that. And so like I was willing to not have anything. Like I was willing to not have a man. I was willing to not have work. I was like, no more because that pain of that extractive parasitic tendency had just gone on like way too long. And I know we all feel
Yeah.
that. And so,
Absolutely heartbreaking, really. To
and
to
yeah,
give, and to be treated like dirt for the more you
right.
give. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like you said, that creational, loving,
Mhm.
uh, yeah, that component of the feminine was always there. And
Yeah.
then for me, like it was like I would cultivate and cultivate my feminine. And then I would
Mm.
offer. And then that parasitic shit would happen,
Yeah.
that extractive shit would happen.
Mm.
And I was like, why is this still happening? And
Mm-hmm.
that sacred, like no more. And it was
Yeah.
a period of like, it's been a period of 2 years since I said no
Mm-hmm.
more. It's been a period of like big deconstruction and physical world hardship
Mm.
while I like traversed that and cleared those tendrils and probably still
Yeah.
continue to, right?
Mm.
But I just feel to name these things because sometimes like, we can get on podcasts, women, the world can get on podcasts and
Mm.
be like, it's all so good if just, but I
Yeah.
think we're like, no, this is a big process of
Mm.
deconstructing old
Yeah.
paradigms and structures and then like living with our very lives
Yeah.
into new paradigm energetics where we can thrive, which is where we
Mm.
get like the regenerative feminine and the blue rose and
Yeah.
the new structures that want to come.
Yeah, and as we speak, the reality of it, the women really feel it because this is a
Mm,
universal story.
right.
And that's what we know from speaking to women. This is just the way it has been, you
Yeah.
know. And I just want to speak of the hardening, the protection, the fight, the ways we have had. So let's if it was true, and it feels to be, that the center of our body, the center of our systems, of our humanity's consciousness, has been these shadow, parasitic, finite, you know, um, unstable, masculine shadow. Let's say these impulses. If we don't have to look too far. Just think of wars. Think of the way, places of work are set up often like slavery, especially for the people who produce, the people closest to the ground, people who produce food and things that they are the most enslaved. So, there is a, like you say, dominion. There's a feeling of dominion, and it's all fair game, however this works. And in that system, like we have been in that system, right? We were raised to be that system. My mother raised me to be tough. It didn't work that well, but she did her best to make me tough. And tough was such an important part of surviving that, or having acumen, and for me that was being psychic. I'd say this is why I think women have such a strong psychic sense. It's because we had to keep alive. We had to develop extra perceptional skills. to
Yeah.
read the intention of the masculine that wasn't being said. And this is why all women do this. All women do this. We perceive with our tummy, with our intuition, what's actually happening in front of us.
Yeah.
So we have navigated our way through this system where the center, and we have been doing some work to clear out our nervous system, and clear out the way our body works has worked in relation to this. And this is very physical for some women. They speak with me, and unpacking this ball of masculine shadow. One woman saw it as the moon inside in her solar plexus, and were these subconscious tendencies, these shadow tendencies, these tendencies of fear, self-protection, like basically shadow masculine tendencies, of interrelating and exchanging with people, and trying to expand by domination and by power and dominion,
Yeah.
or manipulation, or fawning, and kind of like that kind of stuff as well. So we've all been a part of this, because we had to be. And I'm finding these very personal corrections internally. That's probably what was I feel like that's what was
Mm.
happening, like you say, in the gap between no more and now,
Yeah.
where we're on the precipice of the golden mechanics, like the golden clockwork,
Mhm.
just ticking away inside in our body, and everything working as it should. That's what was happening, this
Yeah.
massive purging. And so much from the body of those of us aligned to the mother. We've we've held the memories, we've held the deep knowing, and you feel this too, as you clear for you, or what's going on in your body is going on in the earth grids. And you would say that, right? Like that it's the earth is very personal to the woman, or the
Oh,
water is
yeah.
very personal to the woman. Yeah.
Yeah, I read the other day, I think it was Lisa Renee said that the earth grids are like the nervous system of the planet. And I was like,
Okay.
oh, that's apt.
Mm,
So we've we've been so frazzled,
mm,
and we've had these false electrics, is how I
mhm.
kind of think about this. And um, like the things weren't flowing in the structures of integrity. So it was like all this fried energy.
Yeah.
Um, I think I'd like to talk for a moment about the blue rose and the hurricane, if that is okay,
Sure. I'd love that.
because there's been a very big disruption of the earth and the grids here in Asheville, North Carolina, where I
Mm,
am. And Hurricane Helene came through at the end of September 2024. So just about 8 weeks ago now, 7, 8 weeks ago. And, I want to say, like, I'm only one person, I'm only one mystic, I'm only one seer. So this is a version of
mm,
the way that my like senses were actually showing me what was coming, but I didn't realize that that was happening. So I've heard that a couple of us here like may have had premonitions that we didn't know were premonitions. And so and toward the end of the year as well, here at the end of 2024, I'm just looking at the whole year and all of these mystical clues. So the year started, you and I were talking about the dawn of this, like the era. I can't remember what we called the podcast, but like
golden mother dawn or
Golden
something.
Mother.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's like the new dawn is here, right?
Wow.
And that's when I was. So there's a gold, and you were saying gold. So you were bringing in the
Mm,
gold, and then I was with this holy daughter and blue rose, like you were saying, and I was talking about it. Hardly anybody's like listening. I'm just little old me, and so I keep like sticking with this blue rose. Thanks for understanding me, Mary, because we were talking about it.
love it.
And then we did a workshop in July, which was about clearing fear. And what was
Mm,
coming in at that point, and I brought in the blue rose, and you
mhm,
brought in like the channel of mother.
mm,
And what I was seeing all around that time was this blue rose at the surface level of the earth, that was churning in the direction of the crystal spiral. It was the crystal spiral with blue rose with a spiral at the center. And as it began turning, I began seeing torrents of water, just so much water coming in. And I saw false structures snapping. I saw buildings snapping. And I thought that I was only speaking in metaphor. And then that happened in Asheville, just like buildings snapped like toothpicks,
Yeah.
as the water came through. And I didn't even put those two together because I had just like, I was okay in the hurricane. There was no damage on my home or my child's other house. Everyone was safe, thank God. And so, mostly I'm talking about, as a mystic, like seeing the situation. And it was, I love this place. Like, this is where I'm supposed to be. And so it was heartbreaking and disorienting. Like it was a collective trauma
Mm.
for the land and for everyone on it. So this connection between the land and the people was very apparent because it was like everything had just been completely wiped.
Yeah.
And um so yeah, it was a few weeks later, someone in the Sacred Remembering community was like, this sounds like what you were saying about the blue rose. And I was like, holy shit. Like I didn't even, because I didn't have the wherewithal to put that together. So the one of the reasons that I bring that up is because how it has felt kind of since the hurricane here and with this earth is a lot of like the electrics aren't reorganized yet.
Hmm.
So we've had the full wiping out of the waters. Like I feel the womb waters as I'm speaking, I feel that frequency of the womb waters.
Mm.
So that came and that happened. And, my friend Natalie Rose Martin said the waters have broken, like
Mm.
mother's waters have broken. And it is said that Asheville, North Carolina, here in these gorgeous Blue Ridge Mountains, Cherokee indigenous land, could be the birthplace of the new earth.
Mm.
And so I just got chills. There are quite a few
Me
of us
too.
here that are like, yeah, that's probably true. Right. Like that, yeah, we know that to
Yeah,
be, yeah,
we got the spot, Sarah. That
yeah.
is the spot. We just got it. Mm.
So the waters have come, knocked down the false structures, and I've been seeing and channeling a few things since the storm. Not as much as I would like because of that, like, like we've all just been shaken up kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, but I did, where was I going with that? Confirmation of false structures will not stand here. False
Yeah.
structures will not be rebuilt here.
Mm.
The land itself will not hold it anymore. It cannot be corrupted.
Yeah.
So, we just sat in grid work a couple of nights ago, and
Mm.
those grids are reformulating with a gold frequency, which we want, so that gold frequency goes through earth, goes through women. I wore my gold frequency shirt today. It's got these little gold tinsels in it.
Nice.
Yeah. Which is about as frilly as I get as so far. And then yeah, like the structures in the earth are restabilizing, and we're feeling it in our bodies
Mm.
here on this geographic as well, like this destabilizing and then restabilizing. But I will say that I did not feel stable until I fully committed to the rose. like to standing in the blue rose, like to being in it myself, like my rose, like being the center of my rose,
Yeah.
or however we would say that,
Mm-hmm.
it's a metaphor, but it really works. And so then there are all of these rightful sound and electric, coming back together in the spiral of the rose.
Yeah.
And we do hold that. Like we hold that
Mm-hmm.
in our bodies. We are the walking activation of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been talking about the regenerative feminine for a long time. And it, sometimes I'm talking about things before I know what I'm really talking about, or like before it lands fully for me. And so now I'm like, oh my gosh, this is such a regenerative structure, like for everything to be built upon. Like
Mm-hmm.
nothing in my life can be built now outside of the structure. Like
Yeah.
my energy cannot go to anything that does not like resonate with the structure.
Mm. This is the pinpoint, Sarah, that changes, that offers a new strand into consciousness. It's just incredible. So what I feel from that when you're speaking of that, that destruction of in Asheville, and deep love and condolences to you and everyone else who's like in that physical struggle. What I see from that is like it's a deconstruction. And
Yeah.
I see that deconstruction is not chaos, it is potential. And I see that the pieces, you work in the primordial level, you understand the pieces, the building blocks have order. The feminine was
Yeah.
often called of as chaos. That's not actually true.
No.
It is because
Mm-mm.
the false magnetics and false electrics were harassing and using our energy and making chaos where there was order.
Yes.
So that expression, that New World Order expression, chaos, order from chaos. Well,
Oh.
that they say that we will make order from chaos. So they create division and madness and then make everyone sell the solution, right? It's like the mother's version of that. So it's
Mhm.
like deconstructing. We will deconstruct and everything's perfect. All the building blocks are beautiful. And like you said, it's just the magnetic and the energy, the electric supply that is correcting. And the correction of the magnetic compels the order of the electric, of course, because the magnetic is the force of the center, and that compels the electrics to find their order and their sense. So there is an elemental order already, and everything in the elements is already primed with the sound, the intention of love. Everything.
Yeah.
So this is why it will be so easy and why we're being thrown back. I'm being pulled into this red rose constantly. Every 20 minutes, I'm like, what'll I do? Just go, feel the rose, be with the frequency of the rose. That's it. We are being
Yeah.
pulled into this rose because, as you said, the rose in this moment, and I feel saying the only stability know, the only thing I recognize now, and the only thing that gives me a sense of cohesion is the rose frequency.
Yeah.
And everything in the elements is already deconstructed or like pieces of love. And the rose is the center point, the tone. It's the tone setting, intention of love that is bringing everything into creation. And this is why it will be very easy. Our creations will be very, very easy when the core
Mm.
tone is correct, because
Mm.
everything in nature is already primed to attune to love. And when these pieces are used for false structure and weaponized against each other, and disgusting frequencies that literally attack the cells of things to hate itself, that's horrendous. So that is a scourge that is leaving us. It's leaving us, and everything is literally calling for this original sound, primed for cohesion, primed for resonance. And that's just what I feel from yeah, what you speak of that you're physically part of, which is kind of amazing that, like you say, it's the physical and the eternal in one learning moment, you know?
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah. And I want to speak to this part about like Asheville in this area. I'm sitting in this third floor apartment that did not
mm,
have storm damage. And there are people whose houses were washed away. They were lives washed away, right?
mm,
So like very big tragedy happened in the
yeah.
physical. And I don't mean to downplay that. The storm also took a salaried position that I had, so like we're
Mm,
in the economic wake of it. We're in it and we're in it together. And the thing that did rise up in Asheville, I could cry, is like the love
mm,
and like people helping one another in all new
mhm,
ways and people coming together. And um so yeah, it is the love that rose up. And there's another part, we were kind of working out some stuff in the Telegram between us today about privilege. And,
mm,
so that's coming up now too. So I'm just going to put that into kind of
sure.
like alchemize.
Mm,
So there's there might be a sense of like, well, these two white women, they're privileged. Look at them. Look at them. They're
mm.
looking good, right? um, like it there may be this assumption that like it has come easy or that we even
Mhm,
like have it easy in this moment.
mm,
And I think we need to transcend the comparisons like altogether. That's not helpful. That's separation consciousness. But to
mm,
say also like it has not been easy. Like
mhm,
this is not easy. Like it's like we're holding like the situation in two hands or whatever that saying is. Like there's the old and there's the new. And one of the longest lessons that's taken me to actually put into practice is like when we're feeling frazzled or when we get shocked by that misalignment or when
mm,
the money's not there or et cetera, like another extractive fucking example just happened.
yeah.
Can we practice then getting
Mhm,
into the new currents? And that's everything, actually. So it sounds
mhm,
like la te da, like we're just like talking about these, like, oh, just get in the road. And it is through extreme hardship that
mhm.
I have come to like
Yeah.
find this stability in this thing that sounds esoteric and kind of wild, but
Mm,
it's like if I don't believe this and practice this with my life, then how are we going to bring in the new earth? Like who's going to
yeah.
do it? Like
Mhm,
we have to do it. We have to
yeah.
remember every 20 minutes and get
Mhm,
into alignment with that
yeah.
which we want to see come into form.
Yeah. And so much of kind of like I've, kind of struggle mentality of like I've done this for 20 years. You don't know anything.
Oh yeah.
I'm older than you. I've done this. I've had this life. Now, nobody knows the kind of life I've had because I don't tell people because
Right.
I don't see the need because I'm not trying to prove that I'm entitled to any concessions. I will
Right.
I will create everything I want by my own hands and my own heart. So, but that's not to say there hasn't been elements of, you know, there's been everyone has a complex life. Everyone has bits and pieces that tear them apart and they find the way to build themselves up. So I do find that, and I find that massively limiting and it fracturing. It maintains the fractured consciousness
Right.
to kind of perpetuate, well, you don't know how hard I've had it. This is what I did, and this is what happened to me. And if you were to try to compete and say, well, I'll tell you my story, I don't know what would happen. I don't see the point in it. And that mentality is keeping people in, well, like, I'm just going to dig deeper and do more of what I've always done. But sorry to say, but if you've done something for 20 years and you haven't evolved, maybe you're doing the wrong thing. We are we are bringing back like the golden clockwork, golden mechanics of creation. That should be pretty simple. Like when that's established, things should be simple. Like if we're talking about changing over energy supply, that's switching a button. So if you are, on your pedal bike cycling backwards in the wind and rain, go for it. But like you don't get a medal for that, you know?
Yeah.
You
Sometimes
don't
I
get a
am,
medal for
Mary.
that.
Sometimes I am. And then I
Me
have to
too.
remember,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah, me too.
yeah,
But you know what I mean? There's this idea that suffering and sacrifice equates winning, and that's a lie that was sold
totally.
to
Yeah.
us to get us to sacrifice our life force for a pat in the head. And
Yeah.
we are above that, right? We don't need concessions. We don't need a medal for surviving the war. We want freedom for everybody. That's what we want, freedom for everybody. And we do, the competition of misery, it's just I don't
Yeah.
play it.
Yeah.
And we
Freedom
could
for
possibly win
everyone.
win a medal if we wanted to, Sarah. We might get a medal out of it if we really
I
wanted to play.
I mean, I
But
think
we
we could
just
color some medals right. I think we already fucking
yeah,
got them because like
yeah.
we've already traversed quite a bit.
It's like just leave it.
Yeah.
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 And no
Yeah.
one is really to blame because we want to we want to focus on our mother, our father, whoever it is. Everyone has been under these like weaponized
Yeah.
um, sound occupation, magnetic occupation, electrical interference, literally the components of the blood, which would
Yeah.
be the light in the blood that brings harmony and love and eternal life, was weaponized to self-destruct, to bring programs of death and disease and hatred. So this is what was done to humanity.
Yeah.
So we can't really put the blame on the footstep of our mother or father or whoever else either.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I love when you just said everything, what rises, like love rose up. All of the
Mm.
community love rose up, and it's the perfect expression. And that frequency of love, that is the frequency that will secure. And actually, we are working now with sound resonance. So there are actually like rules and locks. So if people are outside of the correct frequency, their their ability to create won't actually happen.
No.
So when you say that the frequency like of love rose everyone up into their upstanding upholding of themselves and their core
Yeah.
value of love, that just tells me it does sound like ground zero for what you're saying for this beginning of the new earth. And the fact
Yeah.
that you're there with your blue rose is like
Mm.
hardly a coincidence. It's quite magical, really.
Yeah.
Mm.
No, I don't think it's a coincidence that I'm here. This is my heartland. That's what I call it.
Yeah.
Like, and I've been seeing some of these components for a few years,
Mm.
since these like grandmothers came to me and said, talk about heartland. So this storm and this
Okay.
process has given me quite a bit more understanding of Heartland and of the changes in the grids here, and really truly like what is required for this switch into the new earth.
Mm.
And I hope that that it does not always require a storm like we
Mm.
had to, endure. But there
Yeah.
was quite a beautiful, like I said, a beautiful response, and hopefully we become an example here in many
Mm.
ways as like how we can live in a more communal and regenerative
Mm.
way. And I'm not just talking about like communities on a mountainside, although that definitely happens here, but
Yeah.
like these new structures.
Mm.
um, I was feeling into I don't know how long you want to go here, Mary, but I was feeling into
Yeah, we're
that
good.
false womb
Oh,
that
yeah.
was, we've seen it in different ways and different visions. And we didn't mention that vision before. And there's something about that like I think I want to mention that because
Hmm.
we need that to disperse like as
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
as we're talking about the correction of
Because
these
that is
structures in
holding,
the
yeah, that
sky.
is the
Right.
space opening of the false frequency of the false,
Right.
whatever the false spiral is. I'm not intimately knowing of this, but the false womb, if we're
Yeah.
talking about the false frequency and what is not the spiral, what is the false beginning, surely it comes from the false womb, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll share this vision that I had, and I had this in a group, a small group grid work just this week in my apartment. And I won't go through everything that happened, but toward the end, we went through reclaiming it. We went through honoring the deep uh, crimes against the womb, like a
Mm,
deep, deep honoring of that. Um, on this land. And that was shown in various ways. And then after that, as we were doing that, it felt like the masculine was absent. It was like this feeling of abandonment and tiredness, and like, where are they? And um,
wow.
my soul has been, singing that song for a bit now too, personally.
Hmm.
And when we had done the honoring with the land and the water that wanted to happen, and this was three women, and our eyes are closed, and we're visioning together, and we're sharing components of the vision that we're all having, right? So we're all
Mm,
bringing our medicine to what wanted to come through. And this one friend was talking about the women being angry at the masculine. I personally was like, I don't have any energy left to be angry. Like, I just, we're just tired over here, kind of feeling. And she kept talking about the anger and the anger. So I was tuning into this, and I was like, and then I had this vision of all of these men like zombies, like worshiping this false womb, and it was shown like a blimp in the sky. And these men were like zombies that were focused on this false womb blimp. Ugh, that false womb is just so gross. It's so shadowy. It's so lunar. I
hmm.
can feel it right now. It's so gross. And they're zombified, and their eyes are glazed over. And they want to serve this womb. They want to have sex with this womb. They are only aligned to this womb in this
Mm,
vision. And it was like, this is a curse. This
mm,
is a curse that the men have been hooked into
hmm.
a false womb. And so, when we are talking earlier about the women and the men and where we're at right now, I think this is part of the reason why women may feel lonely or may feel like we're going first right now. Are you moving some energy?
That thing is getting out of here, Sarah.
It's
Between all of
disgusting.
us,
Yeah.
it's a horror,
Yeah.
absolute horror.
Yeah. So we called for it to leave, be
Mhm.
dismantled. I mean, it's a very big structure in the collective, in the wherever the fuck it is.
Yeah.
And again, it's not a womb blimp so much as like that's how it presented itself as a
Hmm.
metaphor so that I would understand and see. But you talk about the shadow projection, like the lunar projections and
Oh
Saturn and all
yeah.
of this, and it seems like that's exactly where it came from. But
Mm.
this curse, like this total hijack of the masculine consciousness, is what
Hmm.
caused men to act against creation.
Yeah.
Like, ugh, and the ways that they were rewarded on a completely false level through that false womb,
Hmm.
that the men have to dismantle that. They have to
Yeah.
unhook their own life force, their own heart, their
Hmm.
own cock
Yep.
from that lunar feminine and come on home, because
Yes.
it's like they've been like guided like fucking sheep,
Hmm.
you know with this dark, dark
Mm.
shadow feminine. um it feels like a projection into the field
Hmm.
of consciousness.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm going to speak really harsh on
Yes.
this one, Sarah.
Do it. I
Um,
said the F word
yeah.
3 times,
Mm-hmm.
you
No,
know.
this has to go. And I'm
This,
like so grateful for all of the women just like pushing this out of our space and illumine. And I just want to say there is so much support with this. The reason we are seeing this parasitic false womb system, and am I, is because of the change in frequency. This can no longer sustain. This false womb parasitic system cannot sustain on the frequency of love. And I would suggest, and we will know by our body's response, that this parasitic womb is absolutely getting energy supply from the masculine heart, and I'll speak on that. It is also attempting to hook in to the organic female women's wombs, actually,
Mhm.
and it is creating a siphoning supply to
And
this.
I'm
Did
sorry.
you
So
feel that?
yeah, and when
Hmm.
men, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just want to like
No?
interject. When men are
Yep.
hooked to that and have sex with women, that siphons the energy and gives it back to that false womb. So
Yeah.
a woman's womb will be depleted. A woman's life force energy
Hmm.
will be depleted if he is not unhooked from that.
Wow. And that's very important because as we said about the woman, the magnetic is actually the feminine energy, the magnetic, the spiral, the sound is the generating energy. And it is the generating energy that opens space and births reality. And I would like to point out that a lot of people have an inability to generate. And that'll just be a side note that'll all be taken care of. But what I have seen with this false womb, so there is a shame upon the hearts of men. We know there's been a black heart network, right? We can call it black heart network. We can call it a scourge of shame upon the hearts of men. And I don't really want to get into the reasons why. I just want to deal with where we are right now.
Yeah.
So what this false womb offers men, because we have to be realistic about it and say, well, there's a reason they choose it, because it is a choice. They're making a decision from the heart.
Oh
All
yeah.
decisions are made from the heart. Every decision a man makes is from his heart. You can call it a black heart, and it's an absence of love, but it's still from the heart. The reason
I
that
think it's a Christic heart. Like oftentimes it's such a beautiful heart
yeah,
and it's hooked in. So, yeah.
beneath, yeah,
Yeah.
and there was extra targeting on those
Yeah.
men.
Yeah.
Absolutely, the greater the heart, the more the target. So the choice is what this artificial womb offers men. Like, we have to be honest about it. It's not, there's an agreement being made there. There's a connection being made, a mutual exchange. What that womb offers is a false promise of infinite, eternal self. So what it does, it projects the shadow of the masculine, the holographic dream or vision or idea of self, the narcissistic idea of self of the masculine. It projects it as a holographic reality. This is literally the creation of hell on earth that we have to then navigate and figure out. And now we're cleaning it up, so it's okay. But that is the reason that's chosen. So I would actually say, with absolute certainty, that if the masculine would like a lineage, if they would like a lineage, if they would like to restore their eternal lineage, if they would like to restore their infinite eternal channel, if they would like to invite the presence of the Father and the Son, the unified channel of the masculine, of the heart of Christ, back onto this earth, they have only one portal. There's only one way, and it is through their heart. Every ounce of shame is to be released from the heart. The heart is to be brought back to crystal. And the crystal heart, the sacred Christ heart, is the only portal available for men to have an eternal lineage, to have an infinite, to be brought back into the infinite channel that they are supposed to have. So that idea of false promise and holographic satisfaction and fulfillment, um, that's what that is. Like, that's the
Yeah.
truth of that. So
Yeah.
you've been told.
Thank
So
you.
you've
Yeah.
been all,
Thank you.
it's said
Yeah.
now. I don't
Yeah.
mean
I
you,
love
but
it.
I mean that's there. That is that. Full stop. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That
mhm.
needed to be said. Yeah.
Yeah, make the choice. Every decision is from the heart. It's either from a black heart full of shame or from a crystal clear heart that says, I am going to reclaim the heart of the boy, the heart of Christ, the heart of Father. Because what is happening on this earth in the absence of the heart of Father is chaos, destruction, lack of protection, lack of upholding. The architecture of the upholding of the rose comes through the heart. The pathway, the visionary pathway, the expansion outwards of the upholding of the rose, which is the sound of mother, the intention of mother's love, comes through the heart. So if you devote your heart, and a man's heart is his place of devotion, if he devotes his heart to the machine womb, he is creating hell on earth. And if he devotes his heart to to his heart, if he devotes himself to his heart, to the return of innocence and clarity of his own heart, he can restore and will restore the lineage, the eternal, infinite lineage of him. So that's the choice. Yeah.
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 Beautiful.
That's the choice.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
I
want
gotta
to
wore
see that.
myself out there with that.
I know. I'm like, and we're done. Um, though I've talked to some women in Nashville, some single
Yeah.
women in Nashville, and we just like noticed the
Mm,
men that showed up after the storm.
yeah. Beautiful.
And, like men with shovels,
Yeah.
men rerouting their businesses to help dig people and things,
Mm,
paths, like you name it. Like
yeah.
men like rerouting financial resources, like putting their businesses on hold and like redevoting
Mm,
all of their possible resources to the collective
mm.
good.
Beautiful.
That's hot. I can feel the heart like
Yeah.
emanation through that. And so we were
Yeah.
noticing, and we're like, my one friend had gone out into one of the smaller kind of country towns and was like
Mm.
talking. She's like, these men are so beautiful. And like all of our next questions was like, are they married? She's like, yeah. Like, because they're also very devoted men. Like they
Yeah.
love their wives. So
Mm.
anyway, I'm speaking very generally, but it was a frequency notice, through the
Beautiful.
field, like,
Mm.
whoa, that's the masculine showing up.
Yes.
Like, and yeah, like all the spiritual language in the world is not gonna like help you dig a ditch when it's like needed.
No.
Yeah.
No, exactly. The masculine heart is the heart of action, the heart of decision, the heart of building the architecture that upholds. So I feel that's beautiful. So in that moment, you have that example in that moment of the love invited or compelled the rising, to into service of
Yeah.
life, in service of life. So what I would
Yeah.
just say for the masculine that, you know, the masculine energy supply is so powerful. The heart of like the decision of the man's heart is a very powerful thing. It actually sets time. This is what I've been shown. The
Mm,
masculine heart sets time. So men need to be very careful about their use of their heart, and they cannot believe it's something that's irrelevant or that doesn't matter or that they have
yeah.
to quieten in order to get by. Um, it's like the womb, the womb of women, the water of women is everything. The correction of that and the correction of the heart of men is everything. So, as like that's it. That's the choice point. But it's happening. It's being compelled because
Yeah. Yeah.
actually, the black heart is and that holographic womb is that leads our energy supply to its end. That leads to
Yeah.
demise. Yeah. So that
Totally
can't be
finite.
allowed to
Yeah.
happen. Yeah. The
Mm.
consciousness is being made cohesive and unified. The only way to unify is in love, in a way that
Yeah.
doesn't hurt, is love. And that's what's happening. So, yeah, but we can speed it up a bit, by giving out a little bit every now and again,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the like what we are doing as women is
Mm.
remapping the energetics. The earth is remapping the energetics. The men are probably doing it too, but I'm not managing the men right now. So I'm not managing
Yeah,
anybody but myself right now. But
I think it's happening in
um,
tandem,
it's happening in tandem.
yeah, an
Yeah.
attunement. So it's a there's a correction taking place if. that they have asked for, the masculine has asked for alignment from the feminine to,
Hmm.
you know, run through the pipe dreams, uphold, the
Right.
falling architecture and all that. What is happening is that, and the masculine is being attuned to the feminine. That's actually how
Yeah.
creation works.
It's the
Attunement
only way it's
touch
going
the
to work.
feminine.
Yeah.
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 So that is happening.
Yeah.
But there will be massive releases from the heart of all of our heart. There's massive releases of coming from the heart as we feel these deep emotions. Like these are just trapped wells of emotion, and emotion is the water of creation. So the waters of our creation are gathering. It's like they're gathering to be full and strong so that we can use them for our creations. It's, you're not going to drown in your own tears. It's okay. It feels big. It feels horrendous. Like your heart is breaking, but it's actually a gathering of these creational waters so that when it comes to feeding
Mm.
the spiral, when it comes to like emanating the spiral and listening, tuning to the rose and pushing that outwards through our heart, we have this beautiful, eternal, cohesive water supply pushing out the intention of Mother through the clarified
Mm.
heart of Father. And that's what we're
Hmm.
getting to. Yeah.
Hmm.
So what, like, thank you to you and your friends for interfacing with that blimp womb. And
Yeah.
yeah, and there's
Yeah.
been, I know other women are, this is coming up for everyone, so
Yeah.
women are getting this from all angles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I feel, we're beginning to wrap up, but I want
Yeah.
to leave two more like
Mm-hmm.
visions that give a little frequency, um,
Mm.
maybe a little activation gift. Um, so the
Yeah.
first vision was that same evening in the same
Mm.
journey. There was one part of it for me was this beautiful Native American kind of grandfather, like
Mm.
older man, the size of a mountain, like came in and I was co-regulating with this grandfather mountain, which is the name of a mountain here, but I don't know. It wasn't the same maybe.
Wow,
And maybe I'll have to go there soon now that I say that
you
out loud.
do.
Yeah. It's actually where my grandfather is from. So
Oh, wow.
yes, I have to go.
Mm.
So okay. So I'm a little like, whoa, that was a lot of information. Okay. So I'm in the vision again. And it was apparent that I would have to birth.
Mm.
And in my process that I was going through, I was like, I don't want to birth. I'm tired. I'm afraid. I
Mm.
don't want to. And this is potentially just part of my process, but potentially in the collective as well. Like we're
Mm.
tired and we have further to go and we're scared.
Mm.
So it's time to birth. The waters have broken and we've got to do this. So my womb like became a basin of water in the earth. Like I got down
Mm.
in the earth and then I was the earth and a mountain or whatever. I'm
Mm.
often in my visions and metaphors like the earth itself, right?
Yeah.
So my legs were down in the soil, like
Mm.
down, like buried, like you would bury yourself in the sand at the beach, right? But
Mm.
who knows how big I am at this point because I've got Grandfather Mountain behind me and my womb is a lake in the earth. And at one point there was this like, he moved behind me to support, like a man would hold a woman up while she's birthing, maybe, or like a midwife would, right? So he's behind me and I did that thing, like we were talking about the feminine and the resources and like the who's going to resource, right?
Mm.
I I was like, I need more strength, Grandfather Mountain. And he didn't give it to me. He
Mm.
goes, feel your feet in the soil.
Mm.
Feel the ions, feel the charge. Like stretch down further and know yourself as that,
Mm.
and then birth. But I thought that was beautiful. Like he didn't. he was like, "You're in that old, you're thinking I got your strength? Like, no,
Mm.
the earth has your strength. You are the strength." So
Wow.
that was one thing that I wanted to place here. And then the other thing that kind of takes us into some of the magic of birthing upward, and I'm going to hold a workshop on that on the 7th of December. I've
Mm.
decided just today. I was sitting, I think it was a few days before this grid work and all of these visions. And I was sitting with this painting that my friend Kelly All had done. She actually did the painting as the first iteration of the Heartland like channeling. So
Mm.
she's channeling the Heartland energy, and she did this painting that's called Birthing the New Cosmos. And so
Wow.
it's like this cosmic womb is this painting. And it's on my wall in front of my living room, in front of like my rocks and things, my altar.
Mm.
And I was like looking at it, and she used this blue color, like I call it like a crystalline blue, like an aqualine
Mm.
blue. And I always see, so the blue rose, I yeah, different shade of blue when I saw the blue rose, but then like the spiral that started to come out of the blue rose was this aqualine, this crystalline, like a diamond light, right?
Mm.
This diamond light color. And she used that in the painting like intuitively, right? So, and it's in a spiral in the painting.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there and I was like kind of conflicted in this dualistic, like, um, how does the water and the electrics like get back together? Like, does the masculine go toward the feminine or the feminine go toward the masculine? And I can hear how dualistic that is, but like,
Mm.
this is some of the fracture that I was working out, right? Like, this wanting to bring back this union, but not knowing, like, at the very origination point,
Mm.
how does it happen, right? Like, how do these electrics get into the water or sound, right? So then I see that elect electrified current, like this plasma water, right? This current that
Mm.
carries the electrics, or this current that is moved by the electrics, carries the sound and the electrics, that comes from the center of the rose, that is the new structure of creation. And it was like they both come from the womb. Like they both come from the 0 point of the womb of creation, of the center of the spiral, the center of the rose. It's all the same
Yeah.
thing said differently, but it was like there is no dualism. Like the womb births them both
Mhm.
together.
Yeah.
That is the way. And so it was actually since that I just feel the structure of this
Mm.
rose, of the spiral, and I feel my life inside of it. Like those kind of fried electrics, like the what's
Yeah.
what, the how am I going to use my energy? How am I going to survive? Where are the resources? Where do I need to look for safety?
Mm.
Those, it's like coming back, and it's
Wow.
like the creational center.
Wow, Sarah. Mm.
So that's
Mm.
like it's like a seed. You feel that seed in the center of
Yeah, I
the
do.
rose? Yeah.
It's like we're choosing our womb over and over again, all throughout the day, in every moment. We're being called back to the correct 0 point, which is the rose. This is the place where the eternal breath, the sacred breath of creation channels through the rose. The unified breath, like we say, of the masculine and feminine, the mother and
Yeah.
father. And we are choosing our womb. And the rose frequency is like we are so in tune with the rose now that it is showing up like in our home, in it's nonstop. And
Yeah.
this was the aim of the sound healing, to get it to a place where it was like the loudest sound that we could hear. The loudest sound that we can hear now is the rose. So in this, and the dispelling of the false womb and all of that's coming up for us, it's being freed because the frequency that holds it is dissipating. So it's being freed. So we have to feel that. We have to dispel it. We have to deal with it in whatever, in the right way. But it just feels to me that the frequency of the correct womb, of the organic womb, which is the knowing of the constant provision of everything we need, the nourishment, the eternal regenerative waters, the birthing waters,
Mhm.
the safety, the containment, that field, the frequency of it is love. And that's all it has to be. And in the
Yeah.
choosing of that love, it just keeps, and when I say love, it's a love that unifies, and feeds and nourishes and embodies. It's not a love that chases, or it's a very real, physical, felt love. It feels like that's all we have to. I don't mean that's all we have to. That's quite a challenge, but that's just we're continuously being pulled back, like a deep breath in to the 0 point of love,
Yeah.
so that we uphold and generate this correct womb for eternity, like this eternal womb.
Yeah.
So,
And the creational structure.
yeah, it's amazing. Oh, Sarah, this has been incredible. Really
Mm.
has. And just like my brain is like dancing right now.
Yeah. I'm really
Mhm.
hopeful, like this is the regenerative part. Like this
Mm.
is what did you call it earlier? You said the rose is the structure of expansion. Maybe this was like even before we started.
Oh, sustainable expansion and cohesion. Is that what I said?
Sustainable expansion and like
Mm.
ever widening, like a
Yeah,
rose.
concentric. Yeah, concentric
Yeah,
expansion. Yeah.
right. That
This
crystal
is
spiral.
how, yeah, this is the only way we're allowed to expand. We are
Right.
bringing the rose realm here. Like, you know, it is, those words might sound simplistic, but it is that simple. We're bringing
Yeah.
the rose realm here. We're bringing the earth to the frequency of the rose, which is the frequency of love, and love has everything within it. It has an order, and it has everything within it for its own upholding and its own expansion. So we're talking about the upholding of love requires honor and integrity. The expansion of love requires sense and cohesion and resonance. So we are just being returned to that intelligence, to that level of intelligence,
Yeah.
which is the highest order of intelligence.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So we can do this. We're gonna like
Hmm.
we're gonna keep doing this, even though it's leading edge and we, want the men to join us and
Absolutely. We're tired.
we're-
We need hugs.
we need hugs. We need those electrics.
Yeah.
Yes, the man hug electrics.
Yeah. We need that. But okay, Sarah, thank you so much. So
Thank you.
grateful. And I'm just going to watch this a couple of times and let this just do its magic on me. Like,
Yeah.
I hope people really enjoy this one. I feel like this was powerful, but it is very energizing. This is a very energizing conversation, and I can feel the rocket fuel launching,
Yeah.
underneath us.
Yeah.
And
Me
that's what
too.
we're here. That's what we do when we get together. It's like, come on,
Yeah.
crank it up, you know?
Great. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, I don't have that like generator in the human design. I don't have that. So, if I'm getting more energy rather than just
yeah.
like, you know, then that's a great sign because like I don't generate
Yeah.
like in
But
my body.
maybe
Yeah.
you will now. Maybe you're going to turn into the turbo generator because you
I
have the blue
hope.
rose. The crystal spiral is, you know, we'll
It's
see.
yeah, could
Yeah.
be the best thing to
Yeah.
ever, yeah, to ever energize me. Sounds like that's true. So
But for now, rest.
I
Okay.
know.
Thanks a
Like I
million,
still have
Sarah.
energy 2 hours
I
later.
know. This
Wow.
is amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Mwah. So much love.